What's your winter emergency plan? For most people, it's a generator. We all have the same picture in our heads. A blizzard knocks the power out, the lights die, and we fire up that generator to keep the fridge running and the heat on. It's the modern symbol of being prepared. But what if I told you that by focusing all our energy on the blackout, we're staring at the symptom and completely missing the disease? What if the real catastrophe is already unfolding, silently, in places you'd never think to look, and it has nothing to do with a simple power outage? I was talking to an old college buddy of mine recently. He's not a prepper or an alarmist, he's a numbers guy who manages logistics for a national grocery distributor. He lives and dies by spreadsheets, and what he told me made my stomach drop. He said, people need to be ready for empty shelves in a way they've never seen before. It's not one big event they can point to. It's 100 small things, all breaking at once. The silent collapse of our supply systems is a much bigger, sneakier threat than any temporary blackout. This winter, the biggest problem isn't that the lights might go out. It's that the systems that keep us alive are being quietly strangled. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the signs nobody is talking about and what you can do right now to protect your family. Number 1. The fragile food chain. The first domino falls long before food ever reaches a grocery store. It falls in the fields and pastures that are the foundation of our entire food system, and they are terrifyingly vulnerable to winter. We think of farming as a summer job, but it's a year-round operation. Extreme cold is devastating. An Arctic blast can wipe out winter wheat crops. A historic deep freeze, Winter Storm Uri, hit Texas and caused at least $600 million in agricultural losses, wiping out citrus groves and vegetable crops. It's not just plants. Severe cold puts immense stress on livestock, increasing mortality and reducing productivity. And it's not just one bad season. These losses are cumulative. In 2024 alone, extreme weather events caused over $20.3 billion in crop and rangeland losses across the United States. The food that fails to grow in the winter is the food that's missing from shelves in the spring, leading to higher prices and lower availability. You can't control the weather, but you can build your own personal food supply. This is what's known as a deep pantry, and it's about storing staple ingredients that let you make meals from scratch for a long, long time. The single most important step is to start storing bulk grains. I'm talking about wheat berries. Stored properly in an airtight container in a cool, dark place, hard red or white wheat can last for 30 years or more. You'll also need a grain mill. The ability to turn those berries into fresh flour is a game changer. With flour, you can make bread, tortillas, and pasta, the foundations of a diet. A good hand crank mill needs no electricity and gives you true food independence. From there, you expand. Store bags of rice, dried beans, lentils, and oats. This is your personal food reserve, a buffer against a fragile industrial food chain. Number 2, the cooking oil crisis. Here's a failure point almost everyone misses. You can have 500 pounds of rice, but without fats and oils, you're in serious trouble. Fats are essential for cooking and for calorie density. The problem is, most modern cooking oils are a ticking time bomb. The supermarket aisle is full of giant plastic jugs of vegetable, canola, and soybean oil. These are highly processed, and they have a shockingly short shelf life. They go rancid, often within a year, tasting terrible and becoming unhealthy. Many people stock up on these, only to find in a crisis that their primary cooking fat is unusable. Plus, making these industrial oils is an energy-intensive process, completely dependent on the same fragile supply chains we've been talking about. Shift your strategy to stable, long-lasting fats. For a plant-based option, the undisputed king is coconut oil. Refined coconut oil has a neutral flavor and, because of its high saturated fat content, is incredibly stable. A sealed container can easily last for 5 years or even longer. On the animal-based side, look to traditional fats like lard and ghee. Ghee is clarified butter, and with the milk solids removed, it can last for years without refrigeration. You can buy it or learn to make it yourself. Lard, rendered pork fat, is another powerhouse of shelf-stable calories. You can buy it or, even better, learn the skill of rendering it yourself. These fats don't just provide calories, they enable you to turn all your other stored foods into satisfying, sustainable meals. Number 3, the vanishing water supply. This is a big one, and the common misconceptions are dangerous. When the power goes out, will your tap still work? Maybe. for a little while. But the problem is way more complex than that. Most city water systems rely on electric pumps to maintain pressure. Water towers provide some gravity-fed pressure, but those towers are refilled by, you guessed it, electric pumps. In a prolonged outage, the pumps stop. As pressure drops, water stops flowing to higher elevations. But far more critically, the loss of pressure allows contaminants to seep into the water lines from the surrounding ground. That's why a boil water advisory is almost always issued after a major outage. The water trickling from your tap is no longer safe to drink. If you're on a private well, it's even more direct. Your pump is electric. No power, no water, instantly. This is a two-part solution: store water and be able to purify water. The baseline rule is to store at least 1 gallon of water per person, per day. A 3-day supply is the bare minimum. Aim for 2 weeks. Commercially bottled water is the easiest way to start. For larger-scale storage, look into food-grade water bricks or barrels. But stored water runs out. That's why purification is non-negotiable. The gold standard is a high-quality gravity-fed water filter that can purify thousands of gallons without electricity. A second method is boiling, which kills most pathogens but requires fuel. Finally, you can use chemical treatments like plain, unscented, household bleach, or purification tablets as a backup. Having multiple ways to make water safe is critical. Number 4. The sanitation shutdown. This is the topic no one wants to discuss, but it's one of the most critical parts of surviving a long-term crisis. When the water stops flowing, what do you do with the human waste? A sanitation failure is a fast track to a public health disaster. Modern toilets are a miracle we take for granted. After the one flush from the tank is gone, it's just a porcelain bowl. And even if you could haul water to flush it, the wastewater system itself often relies on electric lift stations to pump sewage to the treatment plant. When the power dies, these stations fail. Sewage stops moving and starts backing up into homes and streets. This isn't just a gross inconvenience, it's a massive biohazard. The rapid spread of diseases like cholera is a real threat when sanitation systems fail. This is how a winter storm can quickly turn into a medieval-level health crisis. You need an off-grid sanitation plan. The most practical emergency option is a simple twin-bucket toilet. You need 2 5-gallon buckets with snap-on toilet seats. One bucket is for liquids only. The second is for solids. You line this bucket with a heavy-duty trash bag and add a layer of a carbon material like sawdust, peat moss, or kitty litter before each use. After, you add another scoop on top to control odor and aid decomposition. When the bag is full, you tie it off securely and store it in a designated area away from your home for later disposal. Having the buckets, lids, bags, and carbon material stockpiled ahead of time is a prep that's not glamorous, but it's fundamental to maintaining your family's health. Number 5. The healthcare gridlock. In a winter crisis, health emergencies don't just continue, they get worse. And the system we rely on, hospitals, pharmacies, 911, is one of the first to get completely gridlocked. Extreme cold is brutal on the human body. Calls for hypothermia and frostbite spike. The strain of shoveling snow can trigger heart attacks. At the exact moment more people need help, the system's ability to respond collapses. Major winter storms, like the one that paralyzed much of the country in December 2022, can make roads impassable for ambulances. You can't get to the hospital or the pharmacy. Beyond logistics, the supply chain for medicine itself is fragile. For example, the 2021 Texas freeze shut down petrochemical plants, disrupting the supply of basic plastics used in everything from car parts to medical packaging. Power outages at pharmacies can spoil refrigerated medicines like insulin. The healthcare system is just another supply chain, and it's just as vulnerable. You have to become your family's first responder. This means having both the supplies and the skills to handle common issues when help isn't coming. Build a serious medical kit. Think in categories: trauma tourniquets, pressure dressings, gauze, over-the-counter meds, pain relievers, anti-diarrhea and allergy meds, and prescription meds. Talk to your doctor about getting an extra month's supply for emergencies. Finally, add winter-specific items like Mylar blankets to treat shock. Supplies are only half the answer. The other half is knowledge. Take a Stop the Bleed class. Get certified in first aid and CPR. The ability to clean a wound or recognize the signs of hypothermia could be the difference between life and death when 911 is overwhelmed. Number 6. The global gridlock, when the world stops shipping. We've talked about local disruptions, but the silent collapse is global. The things we use every day are the final product of an incredibly complex, worldwide dance of logistics. And that dance is getting clumsy. The phone in your pocket, the batteries in your flashlight, the clothes on your back, they almost certainly crossed an ocean. Our lives are built on global trade, but this system faces the dual threat of logistical chaos and geopolitical friction. A severe winter storm doesn't just close a highway. It can shut down a major port, leaving container ships bobbing in the ocean. Now, layer on top of that the growing geopolitical risks that experts from the World Economic Forum and other institutions identify as top threats to global trade. These aren't just headlines. They translate into tariffs that raise costs, conflicts that make shipping routes dangerous, and policies that cut off access to critical materials. Your ability to get a simple replacement part could depend on a political decision made halfway around the world, combined with a snowstorm at a port you've never heard of. The answer to global gridlock is a two-part strategy: strategic stockpiling and radical localism. First, strategic stockpiling. Audit your life and identify the critical, non-food items you depend on that you can't make yourself. This includes batteries, flashlights, tools, duct tape, hygiene products, and any specialized parts for your home. Buy these things now, calmly and affordably. Second, radical localism. This is a mindset shift. Deliberately reduce your dependence on that global chain by building resilience in your own community. Who are the local farmers, ranchers, mechanics, and welders in your area? Build relationships with them now. A strong local network where people trade goods and skills is the ultimate insurance policy against the failures of a globalized system. Number 7. The information blackout. In any crisis, the one thing you need most is good information. Where is it safe? What roads are open? But in a widespread winter collapse, our modern information systems are one of the first things to fail. We get our news, weather, and alerts from our phones, computers, and TVs. All of them depend on power and the internet. When the power goes out, your Wi-Fi dies. Cell towers have battery backups, but they only last for a few hours to maybe a day in a major outage. Suddenly, you're in an information vacuum. Is the storm getting worse? Are rescue crews on their way? This lack of information breeds fear and panic. People make bad decisions based on rumors. The information blackout isolates us and makes every other part of the crisis harder to manage. You must have a way to get information that doesn't rely on the grid or the internet. The single most critical piece of gear here is a quality emergency weather radio. You want a model that receives AM, FM, and most importantly, the NOAA weather radio band. This is a nationwide network broadcasting official warnings directly from the National Weather Service, and it stays on the air during major disasters. Look for one that can be powered by multiple methods: solar, a hand crank, and batteries. This single device is your lifeline. Beyond that, print out physical maps of your city and state. Don't rely on a GPS that won't work. For those wanting to take the next step, consider getting an amateur EMA radio license. It's more involved, but it gives you the ability to transmit as well as receive, completely off-grid. Number 8. Building the Ark, a mindset shift. We've just gone through a lot of heavy stuff. It can feel overwhelming, and it's easy to let concern slide into fear. But fear paralyzes. Knowledge, when you act on it, is power. For years, we've been collectively focused on the wrong problem. We've been preparing for the storm, when we should have been preparing for the fragility of the systems the storm reveals. The solution isn't a bigger generator. The solution is a mindset shift, away from total dependence and toward self-reliance. Think of it this way. You are building an ark. When the story says Noah was building his ark, the weather was fine. His neighbors probably thought he was crazy. He didn't wait for the first raindrops to start sawing boards. He built it calmly and deliberately, long before the crisis hit. That is what this is about. Every bag of rice you store, every gallon of water you set aside, every first aid skill you learn, that's another board on your ark. It's not a panicked, frantic rush. It's a calm, rational process of building a household that can function, for a time, on its own. This journey starts with a simple question for each critical need: food, water, shelter, sanitation, health. Where are you vulnerable? Then take one small step. This week, buy a case of water and a water filter. Next month, buy a bag of rice. Print out those maps. Sign up for that CPR class. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about the consistent, deliberate process of building your ark, piece by piece, so that when the rains do come, whether it's a winter storm or a supply chain breakdown, you and your family will be on a stable platform, ready to weather it. This is not about fear. This is about taking back a measure of control in an uncertain world. So what's the real takeaway here? The bigger winter problem isn't the blizzard. It's the silent, invisible decay of the systems that sustain us. The fragile food chain, the broken supply lines, the vulnerable water and sanitation systems, the gridlocked healthcare, and the information blackouts that leave us in the dark. But by seeing these weak points, we can act. We can build a deep pantry, store stable fats and clean water, plan for off-grid sanitation, get the medical skills and supplies we need, stock up on essentials, and own our line of communication with an emergency radio. This isn't about preparing for the end of the world. It's about preparing for the interruption of our world. It's about being the person who can provide for their family, think clearly in a crisis, and be a rock for their community. If you got value from this and want more practical, no-nonsense advice, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, I want to hear from you. We learn from each other. What is the one thing you are prepping for this winter that you think most people are overlooking? Share it in the comments below. Your idea might be the one that helps someone else get ready. Stay safe and stay prepared.